classroom smelled like 7 different worlds. Park loved that smell. She sat at her desk, her small legs swinging because they could not reach the floor. Around her, students of a dozen species worked together on their science project, a model of Station Orion 7 made from recycled materials. 7 years old. She had black hair cut short and a smile that made everyone smile back. Her best friend was a small blue creature named who had 4 arms and made clink sounds when he was happy. Right now, was very happy because it shared her snacks with him. Her tall being with feathers and golden eyes watched the children work. Teacher had taught at the Galactic Integration Academy for 40 years. She had seen many species come and go. Humans were new. They had joined the galactic community only 20 years ago, and many aliens still did not know what to think of them. Was thought very little of them at all. Said no claws, no fangs, no armor or poison or natural webs of any kind. They could not see in the dark. They could not breathe underwater. They were slow compared to most species and weak compared to many. When the Galactic Council first made contact with Earth, many representatives wondered how humans had survived at all. Answer was complicated, but nobody asked the humans to explain. Not care about any of this. She only cared that today was Thursday, and Thursday meant her grandmother would visit during lunch. Grandmother always brought good food, real Korean food from the small kitchen in her apartment on level 12, and she always brought candy for his friends. Morning passed slowly, kept looking at the clock on the wall. She helped glue tiny windows onto their model. She let the teacher explain how space stations recycled air and water. She drew pictures in her notebook when the lesson got boring. Finally, the lunch bell rang. From her seat and ran to the door. Teacher called after her to slow down, but was already in the hallway. She knew exactly where her grandmother would be, the same bench by the big window that looked out at the stars. And there she was. Was 58 years old, but she looked older. Her hair was gray and cut very short. Her face had many lines, especially around her eyes. She was small, even for a human woman, only 5 feet and 1 inch tall. She wore the simple blue uniform of a state security officer, but her position was not important. She worked at the Academy Gate, checking identifications and greeting families. Most aliens thought her job was decorative, a friendly face to make visitors feel welcome. Sora did not mind what they thought. Sora ran toward her and opened her arms, crashed into her grandmother with the full force of a 7-year-old's love. Sora laughed and held her tight. Sit down, little one. You will knock your old grandmother over. I miss you, said in the Sora's shoulder. You saw me yesterday. That was forever ago. Smiled and pulled out a cloth bag. Inside was a container of kimbap, cut in perfect circles, rice and vegetables and egg wrapped in seaweed. Favorite. There was also a smaller container of sweet rice cakes and a thermos of warm barley tea. Sat on the bench together and ate. Other students passed by with their own families. Some stopped to say hello to. She introduced each one to her grandmother proudly. This is he of my best friend. Hallie, and accepted a piece of candy from Sora's pocket. She has the best laugh in the whole class. Round creature covered in soft fur made a bubbling sound that did indeed sound like a wonderful laugh. And this is different from the others. He was young, but already he was tall, taller than most adult humans. His skin was covered in dark green scales. His eyes were yellow with black slits for pupil. He had claws on his hands and feet, and when he opened his mouth, rows of sharp teeth showed. Were known across the galaxy as apex predators. On their home world, they sat at the top of the food chain. They hunted everything and feared nothing. Many species avoided them. Some feared them openly. It was just a child who looked at Kimball with curiosity. What is that? He asked. His voice was rough like stone grinding together. Rice and vegetables, said. Want to try? Confused, he looked at Sora, then back at. On his world, food was not shared. Food was fought for. I was offering you a gift, Sora said gently. It is a human custom. Sharing food means friendship. Then he reached out with one clawed hand and carefully took a piece of kimbap. He put it in his mouth, chewed slowly. His yellow eyes widened. It is good, beamed. Grandma makes the best kimbap in the galaxy. For the children returned to class, Sora walked back to her post at the academy gate. She nodded to the other security officers. They nodded back. None of them talked to her very much. To them, she was just a small old woman with a boring job. But as Sora stood at her post, her eyes moved constantly. She watched every person who entered and left. She noticed everything. The way people walked, the way they looked at things, the small details that most others missed. She noticed 3 males standing near the transport station across the plaza. They were not parents. They had no children with them. They were just watching the academy, watching and waiting. This was the 3rd time Sora had seen them that week. Filed a report with station security. The report was marked as low priority, probably nothing, no reason for concern. Knew better than to argue. She had learned long ago that some people would not listen until it was too late. Night after her shift ended, Sora went home to her small apartment. She made herself tea and sat by the window. The stars outside were beautiful, cold and distant and beautiful. Thought about her bright smile and her fearless heart, about how she had offered food to a child without any hesitation, did not see predators and prey, she only saw friends. I wish she could see the world that way, but she had seen too much in her life. She knew what predators looked like when they were hunting. She knew the difference between watching and stalking. Stood up and walked to her closet. In the back, behind old clothes and boxes of memories, there was a locked case. She had not opened it in 5 years, maybe longer. Nice, she opened it. Inside was a pistol, military grade, clean and oiled and ready. There was also a knife with a blade that never dulled, and there was a uniform black and worn with hats she had earned in places most people had never heard of. Did not put them on, not yet, but she cleaned the pistol anyway. Her hands remembered the movements even after all these years. At her window, the stars continued to shine. Somewhere on the station, 3 males were making their plan. Alarm started at exactly 9 in the morning. A loud, repeating sound that echoed through every hallway of the Galactic Integration Academy. Fire drill. The students knew what to do. They had practiced many times. Guided her class toward the emergency exit. The children walked in a line, some excited by the break from lessons, others nervous about the noise. Held his hand. His small blue fingers trembled slightly. It is just practice, told him. Nothing is wrong. She was wrong. The security center officers watched their screens with growing confusion. The fire alarm had triggered in the West Wing, but there was no fire, no smoke, no heat signatures. Someone had triggered it manually. I was not at the gate today. Today was her day off. She was at home, reading a book and drinking tea when her communicator buzzed with an emergency alert. She read the message and felt ice spread through her chest. He heard a breach at the academy. 3 armed intruders, species. It was running before she finished reading. The academy, the evacuation had turned to chaos. Parents outside the building screamed as they saw what was happening. Three massive males had entered through a maintenance tunnel. They moved fast, faster than anyone expected. They knew exactly where they were going. Human children's wing. Leader was named. He was 8 feet tall with scales the color of dried blood. Scars covered his body from 100 hunts on a dozen worlds. He had killed more prey than he could remember. Today, he would send a message that the galaxy would never forget. It did not belong among the stars. They were soft, weak, prey animals pretending to be equals. The rattles he led believed this truth with all their hearts, and today they would prove it. The human children huddled in a corner of a classroom. Their teacher, a young alien with 6 legs, stood in front of them with shaking limbs, knocked her aside with one sweep of his arm. She crashed into the wall and did not get up. There were 3 human children, a boy of 9 named who stood at the front with his fists raised, a girl of 6 named who cried quietly behind him, and who watched with eyes that did not look away. His teeth were long and yellow and sharp. Small creatures, he said, so fragile. Your species thinks it can stand among the great races of the galaxy. Today, we show everyone what humans truly are. Reached for his clawed hand wrapped around her arm. She did not scream. Instead, she bit him. Small human teeth sank into the flesh between his scales. Blood, dark and thick, flowed from the wound, roared more from surprise than pain. He pulled his hand back and stared at it. Bit me, he said. He sounded almost amazed. Go said, her voice shook but her eyes stayed steady. You are making a mistake. The sound was like rocks falling. A mistake? Little prey, I am of the Blood Mountain clan. I have killed things 1,000 times your size. What mistake could I possibly be making? Grandmother will come, said simply, and then you will be sorry. Again, his warriors laughed with him. A grandmother, a human grandmother. They were going to be threatened by an old woman from a species of soft weaklings. Grabbed all 3 children. They moved quick through the maintenance tunnels toward the docking bay. Station security tried to follow, but they knew the path well. They had studied the stage for weeks. They knew every camera, every door, every possible route. In 20 minutes, they reached Cargo Bay 7. It was a large, empty space near docking port 7. Easy to defend, multiple exits, perfect for their needs. Veda's communicator and broadcast on all public channels. Station Orion 7. I am of the Blood Mountain clan. I hold 3 human children. If you want them to live, you will meet my demands. Humanity must be expelled from the Galactic Council. They do not belong among us. They are prey, and prey does not sit at the table of predators. You have 12 hours. Ended the transmission and smiled at his warriors. Now we wait. At the cargo bay, chaos had erupted. Galactic security forces surrounded the area. Parents screamed and cried. News drones swarmed overhead, broadcasting everything to 100 worlds. Arrived at the security barrier 20 minutes after the broadcast. She was breathing hard. She had run the entire way from her apartment. The security officers tried to stop her. This area is restricted. Please return to the safe zone. I showed them her security badge. It was not high level. It would not get her past the barrier, but she showed it anyway. My granddaughter's in there. Officer's face softened. I'm sorry, but there is nothing you can do. Galactic security is handling the situation. They will negotiate for the children's release. Did not argue. She did not yell or cry or beg. She simply looked at the cargo bay doors far across the plaza. Then she turned and walked away. Officers thought she was going home. They thought she was giving up. They did not understand humans very well. Went to the security center. She asked to see the footage. At first they refused. Then she spoke to the human security chief, a young man named who had trained under her years ago. He let her watch. Saw everything, the 3 moving through the tunnels, the way they had studied the evacuation routes, the way they had sickly targeted human children. This was not random. This was planned. This was a hunt. The foot showed grabbing Sir's hands tightened on the desk. When it showed biting him, a small, cold smile crossed her face. It was her granddaughter. That was her blood. What are you going to do? Asked quietly. He had known Sar for years. He knew she was not just an old woman at a gate. He knew what she had been before. Turned to look at him. The warmth that usually filled her eyes was gone. In its place was something else, something hard and sharp and very, very dangerous. I'm going to get her back, she said. The negotiators? Too long? Sir stood up. They do not understand patience. On their world, hunts end in blood. They will not wait 12 hours. They will get bored. And when predators get bored, they play with their food. To argue, he wanted to tell her that she was too old, too small, too weak for this. But he looked into her eyes and could not say the words. What do you need? He asked instead. To the stadium blueprints and my locker. Then led her through the security center. Other officers watched them pass. They saw a small old woman with gray hair and tired eyes. They saw nothing to fear. His locker was in the back of the equipment room. She had not opened it in years. The lock recognized her fingerprint and clicked open. Inside was her past. Tactical vest, black and worn from 100 operations. The combat knife that had saved her life more times than she could count. The stun pistol modified for alien combat. 3 grenades, and a small photo taped to the inside of the locker door. Photo showed a young woman in military uniform, 30 years ago. Different face, same eyes. Or touched the photo once, then she began to dress for war. Watch her transform. The grandmother disappeared. In her place stood something else entirely. Something that moved differently, stood differently, breathed differently. They call you the Hun Batter said. It was not a question. They did, sir, replied, checking her equipment. A long time ago. Read your file once, the classified parts. Then you know what I can do. Out slowly, they think they are the apex predators. Finished her preparations and headed for the door. At the threshold, she paused and looked back. About to learn otherwise. Crisis Center was a large room filled with screens and officers from a dozen species. At the center stood Commissioner, the head of Galactic Security for Station Orion 7. He was tall, even for his species. His shell was dark blue and his antennae moved constantly, reading the emotions of everyone around him. Now those emotions were fear and confusion. The tactical display. Cargo Bay 7 was surrounded. His officers had locked down every exit. They were trapped, but they had the children and that made everything complicated. Follow standard protocol announced. Open communication, negotiate, find common ground, the one to be heard, we let them speak, we buy time. The officer nodded. This was how things were done in civilized space. Violence was a last resort. Patience and words solved most problems. The door opened, and a small human woman walked in. Or did not ask permission. She did not wait to be invited. She walked straight to the center of the room and stood before Commissioner. She looked up at him. The top of her head barely reached his chest. Commissioner, she said. Her voice was calm and polite. I'm Sora. My granddaughter is one of the Hodges. I am here to offer my assistance. Ting twitched. He looked at the small woman before him. Gray hair, lined face. Human, which meant weak and soft. Old, which meant slower and weaker still. She wore tactical gear that seemed almost silly on her tiny frame. Appreciate your offer, said carefully. But this is a matter for trained professionals. Perhaps you should wait with the other families. We will do everything we can to bring your granddaughter home safely. Understand your position, Sora replied. She reached into her vest and pulled out a small date chip. Before you make a final decision, perhaps you should review my qualifications. Chip, more from curiosity than anything else. He inserted it into the nearest console. Data scrolled across the screen. Files that had been sealed for decades. Files that required the highest clearance levels to access. As he read, his antennae went rigid. Years in the Republic of Korea Special Forces. Unit, UDD SEAL. The most dangerous special operations unit on Earth. 47 confirmed combat deployments. Specialists in Hodge rescue, close quarters combat, and what the files called targeted elimination. It was more. Operations on 6 continents. Training mission with elite forces from a dozen nations. Confirmed kills numbered in the hundreds. Medals that she had never been allowed to wear in public because their missions were secret. The nickname, earned in combat and spoken with respect by those who knew it. The honey badger? Looked up from the screen. The small old woman before him had not changed. She still looked like a grandmother, but now he saw her differently. His files, he said slowly, are impressive, but they're also old. That was decades ago. Things have changed. You have changed. They do not change, Sor said. A mother's love for her child. A grandmother's love for her grandchild. The will to protect family at any cost. She stepped closer. Commissioner, I have studied psychology. They see themselves as hunters, as ape predators. They do not respect negotiation. They see it as weakness. The longer you wait, the more dangerous they become. What do you propose? Let me go in alone. The ventilation system has an access point they missed. It is too small for bodies, but I can fit. Shook his head. Impossible. You would be walking into a room with 3 armed ape predators. Even with your training, the odds. Not your concern. Sor's voice hardened slightly. I'm not asking for your approval, Commissioner. I'm informing you of my intentions as a courtesy. You can help me or you can stay out of my way. Those are your only options. Murmur ran through the room. Nobody spoke to Commissioner that way. Nobody dared. But Sora did not look away. She did not blink. She stood like a stone in a river, unmoved by the current around her. Silent for a long moment, then slowly his intent relaxed. You truly believe you can succeed. I've spent my entire life training for ways like this. I've rescued Hodges from buildings, caves, ships, and places you cannot imagine. And none of those Hodges were my granddaughter. Sora's eyes softened for just a moment. Commissioner, there is no force in the galaxy that will stop me from bringing her home. You can make this easier or you can make it harder, but you cannot stop it. And to his tactical officer, show her the ventilation schematics. Officer hesitated and then twitched with impatience. No. Max appeared on the main screen. Sora studied them carefully. The ventilation system ran throughout the station, a network of tubes and shafts designed to circulate air. Most were too small for anything larger than a maintenance drone, but there was one main shaft that connected the life support center to the cargo bay. Sora said, pointing to junction. This shaft runs directly above cargo bay 7. There is a maintenance hatch in the ceiling. I can use it to enter unseen. We'll hear you moving through the ducts, the tactical officer said. Their hearing is excellent. Then I will move quietly. What about weapons if they see you? I held up her stun pistol and combat knife. I do not need much. Speed and surprise will do the rest. The officers prepared, Sora stepped away to make a private call. Her daughter-in-law answered immediately. Her face on the screen was pale with fear. Though what is happening, they will not tell me anything. Alive, Sora said firmly. I saw the footage. She is frightened, but she is strong. She bit one of them. But everything a small smile crossed his face. Of course she did. You stay at the hospital. When this is over, when I bring the children out, they will need medical attention. They will need their mother to heal them. Sora paused. Can you do that? Eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. Yes, I can do that. She reached toward the screen as if trying to touch Sora's face. Mother, please be careful. I'm always careful. No, you are not. Me, you told me stories about what you used to do, about why they called you. Those days are behind me, Sora said gently. Today, I'm just a grandmother getting her granddaughter back. Nothing more. Ended the call and returned to the tactical center. Was waiting for her with a small pack of additional supplies. Extra, a metal kit, a communicating device tuned to the security frequency. I want to come with you, he said. No, it can help. I'm trained for combat. Trained, but you are not ready for this. Sora put a hand on his shoulder. Stay here. Monitor the cameras. If something goes wrong, make sure someone tells my son-in-law I'm sorry I missed his birthday. Did not wait for a response. She walked to the ventilation access point, a small hatch barely 3 feet wide, hidden in a maintenance corridor. 2 officers watched her go. They still could not believe what they were seeing. This tiny old woman was going to take on 3 warriors alone. Removed the hatch cover and looked into the darks beyond. The shaft stretched ahead, narrow and cold and silent. At the other end were 3 ape predators who thought they were the most dangerous things on this station. They were wrong. Climbed into the shaft and began to move. She made no sound. Her body, small and flexible, slipped through spaces that would trap larger beings. Her breathing stayed slow and steady. Her heartbeat calm and regular. As if training took over, she was not Sora anymore. She was not a grandmother or a security officer or a kind old woman who handed out candy. She was the honey badger. Honey badders never stopped. They never surrendered. They never gave up. And her, the hatch closed with a soft click. Ahead, in the darkness of cargo bay 7, 3 weighed with their Hodges. Growing restless, 3 hours had passed since it broadcast. The station security had sent messages asking for dialogue, asking for patience, asking for understanding. Understood only one thing, power. Paced across the cargo bay floor, his claws clicking against the metal. His 2 warriors stood guard near the exits. Between them, against a stack of cargo containers, the 3 human children sat in silence. Expected them to cry? Prey always cried. On his homeworld, captured animals screamed and begged and whimpered until the very end. It was part of the hunt, part of the pleasure. But these children did not cry. This boy sat with his back straight and his jaw tight. His hands were bound, but his eyes burned with hatred. The youngest girl had stopped crying hours ago. She leaned against, her face hidden in his shoulder, and the one who had bitten him sat apart from the others. He was watching him. Not like those eyes. They reminded him of something, but he could not say what. There was no fear in them, only patience, only waiting. People are weak, he said to the children. They send messages instead of warriors. They talk instead of fight. This is why you do not belong among the stars. Her head silly. They are not weak. They are smart. They are waiting for the right moment. What moment? What could they possibly do? We are the greatest hunters in the galaxy. Nothing on this station can threaten us. My grandmother can. Peking. He turned to look at the small girl. She sat calmly, her bound hands resting in her lap. Grandmother, he repeated. The old woman from the gate, I have seen her. She is small, frail, harmless. You do not know her. Humans, you are soft creatures. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. You cannot run fast or fight hard. On my world, you would be food. Eyes did not waver. You should let us go while you still can. Thing about her voice made uncomfortable. It was too calm, too certain, as if she knew something he did not. But the feeling aside, these were human children. We prey from a weak species, nothing more. He called to one of his warriors. Check the perimeter again. I want no surprises. I then walked toward the far end of the cargo bay, where shadows gathered between stacked containers. His night vision was excellent. He could see in near total darkness. No threat could hide from eyes. He stepped into the shadows and did not come back. A minute passed, 2 minutes, called out, report. Silence. Moved toward the shadows, his claws raised. Stop playing games, the leader is. Saw lying on the ground, unconscious, bound with cargo straps, a small wound on his neck still bleeding. What? The lights went out. Cargo bay fell in complete darkness. Emergency lighting flickered on a moment later, red and dim, casting long shadows across the floor. But in a circle, his eyes adjusting to the low light. Show yourself, fade me like a warrior. Silence. From somewhere in the shadows, a voice, soft, female, human. I'm not a warrior of the Blood Mountain clan. I am something much worse. Orden charged toward the voice. His claws struck empty air. The voice had moved. A friend is alive, sleeping. He will wake with a headache, but nothing more. I am giving you a chance. Release the children and surrender. This is your only warning. We'll tear you apart, snarled into the darkness. I fear nothing. No, you do not fear. That is your weakness. You have never met something that truly threatened you. You have never been the prey. From somewhere to his left, the sound cut off suddenly. Bun toward it, but he was too slow. By the time he reached the spot, was on the ground, unconscious, like bound, bleeding from a small cut on his arm. Was alone. Back toward the children, his eyes scanning the shadows. His heart pounded. It was impossible. Humans were weak, slow, soft. How could one of them move like this? How could one of them hunt like this? Yourself, he screamed, face me. Shape emerged from the shadows. Stepped into the dim red light. She was small, gray-haired. Her face was lined with age. Blood stained her tactical vest from a cut on her arm. In one hand she held a knife, in the other nothing. Stared at her. There was the threat, this tiny old creature. Laughed. The sound echoed through the cargo bay. This is what humanity sends a grandmother, a weak old female. Or did not respond. She walked toward him slowly, steadily, without fear. Kill you, said. I will kill you, and then I will kill the children, and I will show the galaxy what humans truly are. Or stopped 10 feet away. Her eyes met his. Think your claws scare me? She asked. I have killed things bigger than you with less. Orden lunged. It was fast, faster than any human should be able to track. His claws sliced through the air toward her throat. So it was not there. Moved like water flowing around his attack. Before he could recover, she was inside his guard. Her knife found the soft tissue between his scales. Pain exploded through his arm. He swung at her, but she was already gone behind him, striking again. Blood ran from a dozen small wounds. Never felt it before. He was the hunter. He was the apex predator. But this small creature, the grandmother, was taking him apart piece by piece. Grabbed for the children, desperate to use them as shields. His claw closed around his arm. He pulled her close, holding her in front of him. The back he screamed, I will kill her, I will. Close your eyes, little one, Sor said softly. Grandma has to be impolite. Closed her eyes. What happened next took 3 seconds. Or did not attack the body, she attacked his weaknesses. His eyes first, then his joints, then the soft spot between his scales. She did not fight fair. She did not fight like a warrior. Fought like a honeybear, small, vicious, relentless, unstoppable. Grip unloosened, he fell. He did not get up. Stood over his body, breathing hard. Her knife dripped with dark blood. Her hands trembled slightly. Then she turned away from him and knelt before the children. At her eyes, she saw her grandmother kneeling before her, arms open. It is over, little one. You are safe now. Herself in Sor's arms. She did not cry. She just held on with all her strength, her small hands gripping her grandmother's vest. But at the fallen, at the 2 unconscious warriors, at the small old woman who had done this. How, he whispered. Looked at him over his shoulder. Her eyes were soft again. The warmth had returned. When you have something worth protecting, she said, you find the strength. Activated her communicator. Her voice was steady. Secure. 3 dangles down. Send metal to diving port 7. At the other end, there was silence. Then Commissioner's voice filled with disbelief. Affirmed, all units move in. Go bay doors burst open. Security officers fled in, weapons ready. They found the 3 defeated, the children safe, and a small old woman sitting on the floor holding her granddaughter in her arms. One of the officers approached Sir carefully. Ma'am, how did you? Or looked up at him. She was tired. Her arm was bleeding. Her body ached in ways she had forgotten were possible. Her granddaughter was safe. That was all that mattered. Let's have a saying, she said. Do not mess with a grandmother's grandchild. Video spread across 100 worlds in less than a day. Security footage from Cargo Bay 7. Grainy red emergency lighting. A small human one moving through shadows like a ghost. 3 warriors, each 8 feet tall and covered in scales and claws, falling one by one. His channels played it constantly. Commentators analyzed every moment. Experts on alien combat watched in disbelief. This was impossible. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. Everyone had always known this. And yet, the territories, the reaction was complicated. The government issued formal apologies within hours. The radical faction that had supported was arrested and imprisoned. Official statements called the attack disgraceful and contrary to honor. In private, on warriors who had spent their lives studying combat, the conversations were different. You see how he moved? She knew exactly where to strike, every weakness, every soft spot. He did not fight like prey, she fought like us, but smaller, faster. Meaner. Began researching Earth. What they found disturbed them. A planet where everything tried to kill everything else. Where humans had clawed their way to the top of the food chain not through strength or speed, but through something else entirely. Resistance, endurance, the refusal to give up. could not outrun their prey, so they followed it for days, never stopping until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They could not overpower larger predators, so they made weapons, set traps, worked together in groups that shared knowledge across generations. When threatened, they did not flee. They fought with whatever they had until they won or died. I had a word for creatures like this, creatures that refused to accept their place in the food chain, creatures that challenged the natural order. Were translated roughly as unnatural hunter. Station Orion 7, life slowly returned to normal. The cargo bay was cleaned and repaired. The academy reopened. Children returned to their classes, watched more carefully now by security officers who took their jobs more seriously. The metal bay sat on an examination table while her mother checked her for the 5th time. I'm fine, Sid. I already told you. And her scanner over his arm again. Let me make sure one more time. But did not argue. She knew her mother was scared. She knew everyone was scared. The bad things that had happened were still fresh in everyone's mind. Was not scared, not anymore. Father Minu had arrived on the station that morning. He had taken the fast transport available, crossing half a sector in record time. When he saw, he held her so tight she could barely breathe. Should have been here, he kept saying. I should have been here. Grandma was here, told him. That was enough. Minu stood in the corner of the metal bay, watching his mother with an expression did not understand. It was something between admiration and fear. Sat in a chair by the window, her wounded arm bandaged. She looked tired but peaceful. She was knitting something small and pink. Mom, Min said finally. I knew what you used to do. I read the files years ago, but I never imagined. We're not supposed to imagine, Sora said without looking up from her knitting. That part of my life was over. I became a grandmother. That was supposed to be my last job. But when was in danger? Was in danger, I remembered what I was before I was a grandmother. She smiled slightly. It turns out some skills do not fade with age, they just wait. He shook his head slowly. The entire galaxy is talking about you. The government sent 3 diplomatic ships. They want to formally apologize. Do not need apologies. I need them to leave my granddaughter alone. I also want to give you something, some kind of warrior recognition. They say you fight like. Laughed softly. It was a warm sound full of genuine amusement. I do not fight like I fight like a human. We just do not show that side very often. A month later, Sora was back at her post at the academy gate. She wore her blue security uniform. Her hair was neat combed. Her pockets were full of candy. She looked exactly as she had before, a small old woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. But things were different now. Aliens passed through the gate. They nodded to her with respect. Some bowed. Others paused to speak with her, asking questions about human customs and human history. They wanted to understand the strange species that had fooled everyone into thinking they were harmless. Bowder himself visited the academy one morning. He was old for his species. His scales faded to a dusty gray. He walked with the careful dignity of someone who had seen much and learned from it. He stopped before Sora and lowered his massive head. Sora of Earth, he said formally, I come to offer the respect of the people. What did was wrong. He was a fool who thought strength was the only measure of worth. You have taught us otherwise. Or inclined her head in return. Was not entirely wrong. Strength matters, but there are many kinds of strength. The kind that shows in muscles and claws, and the kind that shows when everything is lost and you refuse to give up. Ambassador nodded slowly. We have been studying Earth. We are learning much. Your planet is a place of terrible beauty. Everything there fights to survive. Everything adapts or dies. Yes, Pil survived, thrived, conquered your world without natural weapons. He paused. We underestimated you. We will not make that mistake again. He left. Sora returned to her duties. She checked identification. She greeted families. She handed out candy to children who had begun to collect it eagerly. And then a young approached her, nervously before the security gate. He was taller than when had first introduced him, his scales darker and his teeth sharper, but his eyes held something unexpected, respect. Held out a small object. It was a token made of dark metal, carved with symbols that meant nothing to Sora. Father gave this to me, said. It is an honor token, given only to warriors who have proven themselves in combat, he says. He says you fight like a but smaller and meaner, he hesitated. He means it as a compliment. Took the token and examined it carefully. It was heavy in her hand, warm from the young script. Your father I am honored, she said, but I do not fight like I fight like a human, and on the planet we have a saying. What saying? It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it is the size of the fight in the dog. With a twisting confusion, what is a dog? Sora smiled, as she will explain. I then walked toward the school entrance. He passed, who was running in the opposite direction, her backpack bouncing on her shoulder. Grandma. Opened her arms and caught her granddaughter in a hug, laughed and squeezed tight. Told my class about the hung barrier today. They did not believe me. They said it was made up. Sora kissed the top of his head. What did you tell them? Them hung bears are real. They are small and they look weak, but they fight lions and snakes and nothing has stopped them. My teacher looked it up on the network and showed the class videos. Everyone was amazed. Sora laughed. The hung bear is a remarkable creature. A friend said you are like a hung bear. She said you are small and look weak, but you are actually very scary. Scary? Sora pretended to be offended. Me? I'm just a grandmother. Scariest grandmother in the galaxy, said proudly. Walked together toward the window that looked out at the stars. Ships moved in the distance, carrying travelers to and from 1,000 worlds. Somewhere out there, species that had dismissed humanity as weak were reconsidering their views. They said no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. They had something else, something that could not be measured in physical strength or speed or size. They had each other, they had love, and they had the absolute, unshakable refusal to give up on the people they cared about. Looked up at her grandmother. Grandma, will the bad aliens come back? Thought about the question. She thought about and his followers, about the fear and hatred that had driven them, about the long, slow work of building trust between species. Maybe, she said honestly, there are always bad people in the universe, bad aliens too, but there are also good ones, and as long as there are good people willing to protect what matters, the bad ones will not win. Like you. All of us. Sora squeezed his hand. You were brave too, little one. You did not give up. You did not let them break you. That is what it means to be human. She looked out at the stars, at the vast and terrifying and beautiful universe waiting beyond the window. I want to be like you when I grow up, she said, a honey badger. I pulled her granddaughter close and smiled. Little one, honey badgers are not made, they are born, and you already have everything you need. The star burned cold and distant, ships came and went, life continued as it always had. Across the galaxy, something had changed. A small story about a small woman on a small station had spread to every corner of known space, and everywhere it went, it carried a simple message. Do not underestimate humans. Look soft, they seem weak. They have no natural weapons or armor size. When you threaten what they love, they become something else entirely. Something ancient, something relentless, something that has survived on a death world for millions of years through sheer stubborn refusal to die. Humanity was no longer curiosity. Humanity was a warning. Sora, the grandmother at the gate, went back to handing out candy and smiling at children. As she had always done. As she always would. She held and let the metal teams take over. They had no idea what was coming. Sora, the small old woman at the academy gate, prepared for what might come next.